All right, good morning, my friends. This week in reading, we're going to really be looking at characters. As a good reader, I pay attention to the characters and try to understand exactly what the character is like in the story, because what it does, it gives me a better understanding of the story if I understand what the characters are like. So if we think back to the tortoise and the hare, okay, remember when we've read about and we've talked about the tortoise and the hare? The tortoise believed in going slow and steady, right? He wasn't reckless, he wasn't wild, he was just like, I'm going to stay the course, I'm going to go slow and steady. And he accomplished what he wanted to accomplish, his goal. The hare, on the other hand, was a little wild, and I think we talked about the fact the little show-off-ish thought that just because he was really fast that he could always win the race. And he learned a valuable lesson, right? He learned that sometimes if you really think too much of yourself and don't focus on what you need to be doing, somebody else might be able to win a race or win a contest or something because they're really focused. They're not wild, they're not reckless, they're just very focused. So understanding that helps us understand that story and learn that lesson, that slow and steady can win the race, okay? And that came from understanding those characters. So when we read a story, we really try to understand those characters. And we've talked, characters are the animals or people that are in a story. And they can either be real or make-believe. We've read both kinds of stories this year where we've had real characters and we've had make-believe characters. Today what we're going to do is we're going to listen to a story called The Monkeys Build a Treehouse. And what I want you to be doing is I want you to be listening for the characters in this story. But if I'm giving you the title, The Monkeys Build a Treehouse, who already do you think the characters are? The monkeys, right? Exactly. Now, if I'm telling you that the monkeys build a tree house, do you think, just make a guess, do you think our monkeys are going to be real or are they going to be make-believe? I think they might be make-believe. If monkeys are in my backyard building a tree house, I'm going to pretty much believe that they are make-believe monkeys, okay? I don't think real monkeys are out building tree houses. They might build a home for themselves, but a tree house sounds like definitely something that kids would be playing in. So look in your backyards. If monkeys are building tree houses, then you have a very special backyard, okay? All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to listen to my story carefully, and I want you to be listening for the characters in the story, okay? We're going to talk about them a little bit at the end. The monkeys build a tree house. The monkeys wanted to build a tree house. They got wood, nails, and tools. First, we have to cut the wood the right length, said Molly. How do we do that? I know, yelled Megan, holding up a big saw. Wait, said Mitch. We should measure the boards first. He measured and marked the boards. Then Megan cut them with a saw. Now we build, said Manfred. He picked up the screwdriver and some nails. That's not right, said Molly. Use the hammer to put in the nails. Zip, zip, wham, wham, buzz, buzz, and at last the house was finished. Oh no, cried Molly, Megan, Manfred, and Mitch. How do we get up in the tree? All right, so I'm going to model for you the way I would be thinking about the characters in this story if I had just read this like we just did, okay? So the title of the story was called The Monkeys Build a Treehouse. So the first thing I would ask myself is, okay, who are the characters in the story? They're monkeys, right? Okay. So what kind of animals built this treehouse? The monkeys did. Then I would be thinking to myself, okay, are these real monkeys or make-believe monkeys? Well, I'm thinking if they're building a treehouse, probably make-believe monkeys. But there are some things in the story that told me that these are make-believe monkeys. They talked, right? They talked. They used tools. And they were building a tree house. Okay, those are 3 pretty important things to tell me that these are make-believe monkeys in my story, okay? Now, I want to try and sometimes remember the names of the monkeys or of my characters. And this might be a little tricky, but all 4 of them began with an M sound. There was a Molly, a Mitch, a Megan, and a Manfred. So those were my 4 monkeys in the story. I know they're make-believe because they were talking, using tools, and building a tree house. But there is something about them that, whether they're make-believe or not, is helpful when I'm thinking about the characters so I understand them a little bit better. What I want to do is I want to think about, well, how would I describe these monkeys? Yes, I know they're make-believe monkeys, but if I listen and I think back to the story, what did I learn about these monkeys in the story, whether they're make-believe or not? The characters in the story, what did I learn from them? Well, I would say they're hard workers because they wanted to build this tree house, and they went and got all the tools and they worked together to build this house. I also learned something else about them at the end of the story. What was the problem at the end of the story? They didn't know how they were going to get up into the treehouse. So what did they not build for themselves? They didn't build a ladder. Very good. So what I know about my characters in the story right now is they are hard workers because they're trying to build this treehouse, but maybe they're not as organized as they need to be, right? So maybe if the story went further, I would learn that maybe they realized that they needed to be a little bit more organized the next time they were building something. Okay, so that's an example of how we're going to look at characters this week. We want to truly understand them. Whether they're make-believe or real, we want to understand the characters and what they bring to the story and maybe what they learn in the story, and then we learn that it's good to be hardworking, but you also need to be organized when you're working, okay? All right, this week, we're also going to go back and we're going to talk about prepositional phrases. We're going to talk about those words, those prepositions, those words that help us to find things, like where we find things, okay? So for example, the 4 friends, the 4 monkeys today, we're using tools to build a tree house, okay? Well, we use tools in the classroom all the time. We're not using them right now, but you're using them at home. So I can use this as an example. We use books, okay? If I write the sentence, I'm going to turn you this way so you can see my board. The books are on the shelf. The books are on the shelf. Okay? If I wanted somebody to look at that, or they were reading that, what part of the sentence would tell them where to find the books? On the shelf. Very good. The books are on the shelf. On the shelf is telling somebody where to find the books, okay? So when we use a phrase that tells someone where to find something, that is called a prepositional phrase, okay? So a prepositional phrase is a group of words that tells where something is, and it begins with a direction word. So if I look at the books are on the shelf, on the shelf is my phrase, my group of words that tell me where something is, where those books are. And then my preposition, the direction word, is on. And so a prepositional phrase is always going to begin with a direction word like on, in, over, or under. It's a direction word. It tells you where you're going to find something. And then the whole phrase together is called the prepositional phrase. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of practice. So if I write this sentence, Okay, I'm going to turn you again so you can see. If I write this sentence, Jill skips to, I'm going to move you down a little because I just realized you can't see me. Jill skips to the park. Okay, so my sentence is Jill skips to the park. Okay, now to the park tells me where Jill is skipping to. And to is my preposition word that starts that phrase, that group of words that say where Jill skips. Jill skips to the park. Okay, Jill skips to the park. It tells us where Jill skips. Where does Jill skip? To the park. All right. Now, just for a little bit of practice, who or what is my sentence about? My sentence is about Jill. That's my noun. That's my naming word. What does Jill do? What's the action word? She skips. Very good. That's my action word or my verb. Okay, so again, Jill skips to the park. Where does Jill skip? To the park. That's my prepositional phrase. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of work. I sent you a special worksheet that you are going to work on today. Okay, and we're going to do the first one together, and then you can check your paper to mine. Okay, all right, let's take a look. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our name up at the top of the page. Okay, and you have your paper right there. Okay, I'm going to put my name right up at the top of the page. Okay, and I'm going to bring you a little bit closer. Okay, all right, so let's read the first sentence. Okay, Ron jogs on the path. Ron jogs on the path. Where does Ron jog? On the path. Very good. On the path. Okay? So, Ron jogs on the path. Okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to circle that word on because that's my preposition. Ron jogs on the path. On the path. Where does Ron jog? On the path. What's that preposition word? On. Okay? All right, let's take a look. You are going to do Mom looks under the sink. Where does Mom look? You're going to underline, where does Mom look? Mom looks under the sink. Very good. And what's that preposition word? Under. Very good. The first word of it. Mom looks under the sink. Very good. All right, next one. Let's read this one. Anne hops over a rock. Where does Anne hop? Over a rock. Very good. And what's that preposition word there? Over. Very good. All right, my friends, your job now is to choose one of those three sentences and illustrate it in the box below. Okay? All right. Great job, my friends. Excellent job on preposition and prepositional phrases, and I will look for your work on Flipgrid. All right, great job, friends.